Okay, today we're talking resilience through chronic stress and emotional numbness, reconnecting to yourself when life has kept you in survival mode. So, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Liz, and this space is about mental health, resilience, and navigating life when it doesn't go the way you expected. Today, I want to talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough. What happens when chronic stress and long-term uncertainty don't just exhaust you, but slowly disconnect you from yourself? And I want to start by asking you a question. Have you ever reached a point in your life where you weren't sad, you weren't angry, you weren't even scared anymore? You just felt nothing? No emotion, no connection, no real sense of yourself. And you start wondering, is this what survival looks like? Years ago, I was on dialysis. Not for weeks, not for months, for 6.5 years. I was in my early 20s, living off a machine, structuring my entire life around survival. And while my body was fighting every single day, something else was quietly happening beneath the surface. I was losing access to my emotions. There's a very specific moment when you realize you're numb. It's not dramatic, it's not loud, it's just standing in a place where there is literally no emotion left to feel. You don't feel angry, you don't feel sad, you don't feel hurt, you don't even feel alone. You don't even feel overwhelmed anymore. You just feel nothing. And that's the kind of nothingness, and the kind of nothingness is different from peace. For me, that realization was huge because I've always been an empathetic person. I've always felt deeply, I've always cared deeply, but in the middle of chronic illness and long-term stress, I couldn't even understand myself anymore. That's when I realized something important. Even though we all have tools within us, intuition, insight, there are moments in life when chronic stress, trauma, illness, or uncertainty deplete us so deeply that we can't access those tools on our own. Not because they're gone, not because we're broken, but because we need guidance to help us activate what already lives inside of us. I reached a point where I had to make a choice, not a dramatic one, not a heroic one, just an honest one. Do I give up or do I get help? I didn't have clarity. I hadn't healed. I didn't suddenly understand my life, but I asked myself one question: what's the next step? And that next step was telling someone I trusted. I told my boyfriend at the time, I told my family, I told my medical team, I said out loud, I need more support than I have right now. I was still on dialysis when I made this decision, still dealing with chronic illness, still living in uncertainty, but emotionally, I felt like I wasn't even alive anymore. So I arranged a ride to a mental health inpatient facility, not because I was weak, not because I failed, but because I needed to step away from everyday life without leaving life so I could find my footing again. I explained my situation, how the numbness felt worse than the physical pain, how I felt disconnected from myself, how I needed help understanding what was happening inside of me so I could continue the fight I was already in. They admitted me. And I remember them saying that stayed with me. They said, "You're different than most people here. You're young. You're living off a machine. You're trying to find grounding." For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. They handed me a journal and asked me to write how I felt. Some days, the only thing I felt was nothing. I felt nothing, and that mattered because even writing nothing is still communication. Even naming numbness is a form of connection. Then came the conversations, one-on-one conversation, group conversations, listening, talking, sitting with others. Slowly, something started to shift. I began to understand that the numbness wasn't random. It was protection. I had disconnected emotionally because I was trying to survive the pain that wasn't physical or emotional pain, mental pain, the constant weight of uncertainty. So I pulled inward like a turtle hiding in its shell, closing the world off, not paying close attention to anything because everything became too much. The program didn't fix me. It taught me how to process, how to name what I was carrying, how to feel safely again. how to function in a healthier, more stable way. That experience didn't end my struggles. It was the beginning of building my toolbox. And this is something that aligns deeply with what Brené Brown talks about when she says that vulnerability is not weakness, it's courage. Asking for help isn't giving up. It's choosing to stay connected to yourself. What I did in that moment wasn't quitting. It was resilience. Resilience didn't look like pushing harder. It didn't look like pretending I was okay. It looked like honesty. Since then, I've reached out for many different kinds of help in my life. Medical, emotional, educational, spiritual. And every single time, my toolbox grew. Today, that toolbox supports everything I do. So let me ask you again this time and a little differently. Have you mistaken numbness for strength? Have you been surviving so long that you forgot what feeling feels like? Have you been trying to access tools within yourself without completely being depleted? And if so, what would happen if your next step wasn't pushing harder, but asking for guidance? If this resonates with you, I'd love to hear from you. You don't have to share everything, but maybe answer this in the comments below. What's one step you know you need to take to reconnect with yourself? And if you're in a place where you feel nothing at all, please hear this. You don't have to do this by yourself. Help is not failure, it's courage. And as always, I am sending you guys so much love and so much light. Until next time, stay strong, know you're not alone, and know you got this. Until next time, bye.